OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, everybody? It is Courtney here from the Outcasted OC podcast, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. I'm really excited to talk about this week's episode of Monday Night Raw because a lot of really good stuff happened. We had a fantastic main event that obviously has now filled the void of Rhea Ripley having to vacate the Women's World Championship. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. The Monday Night Raw this week actually started off with Michael Cole and Pat McAfee both in the ring, and they were talking about how the developing story of the evening is that there will be a Women's Battle Royale taking place as the main event. Now this will be to determine who is the next Women's World Championship, obviously since Rhea Ripley had to vacate the title last week due to injury. So we find out that there will be that happening in the main event, and we get to see a number of the contenders obviously throughout the day arriving to the arena. So we get to see Liv Morgan, Becky Lynch arriving to the arena. And we obviously got to see a recap of Rhea Ripley vacating the title last week on Monday Night Raw. Following this segment, Jey Uso comes out and he cuts a promo about how Backlash is in 2 weeks, and he has a lot to prove within that 2 weeks because he wants to beat Damian Priest. He wants to show that all the struggles that he has gone through throughout his career, whether that's in the bloodline, obviously leaving the bloodline and making his way over to Monday Night Raw and doing everything he's done, he wants to show everybody that they were all worth it. Damian Priest says nana, makes his way out to the ring, and he hops in the ring and he looks at Jey and he's like, look man, I've just been wanting to say this for a long time, but I really want to talk about how your vibe suits you. And he said that you and I went to war together last year. There was going to be a point in time where it was going to be both of us on top, and we spoke about that. We were out for drinks and spoke about how it was going to be me and you next as title holders, but unfortunately I was next and you were not. He points to the title and he says, this is my why right now. This is why I'm here. This is what I'm doing. Jey Uso looks at Damian Priest and is like, take it easy, Us. Like, is that seriously all you see me as? Is just another person that the machine is going to feed to you to show how good that you are of a champion? And he goes, the only reason that you are the leader of the Judgment Day is because Rhea Ripley's hurt. Can you say hi to her for me? And he goes and calls Damian Priest Dominic Mysterio's bitch, which I thought was quite funny. And he says at Backlash he's going to be the next World Heavyweight Champion. Then we see JD McDonough try to assist Damian Priest, but he ends up messing it all up. And he comes in and he tries to hit Jey Uso from behind, and then there's a moment where JD McDonough ends up ducking down and Jey Uso ends up kicking Damian Priest, so you can kind of see the communication with the Judgment Day is just not there, and obviously Damian is very, very upset by this, so Jey Uso kicks Damian, and that's kind of how the segment ends. Following this, we get a video recap of the match between Sami Zayn and Chad Gable from last week. Now, this was where Chad Gable turned heel and finally turned on Sami Zayn after helping him beat Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. We then see that not only Chad Gable has arrived to the arena, but we get to see that Gunther has arrived to the arena as well too. And we also get a video promo package for King and Queen of the Ring, which will be taking place in Saudi Arabia at the end of May. I'm super excited for this. I feel like with Triple H in charge of creative, I feel like King and Queen of the Ring is actually going to mean something now than how it was last time we had it, where it kind of didn't really mean anything. We make our way back to the ring where we have our first match of the night. Now this, actually, I'm not going to lie to you, Monday Night Raw this week was quite full of tag matches, and I think that they did this mostly because there's going to be a battle royale at the end of the evening, so they kind of wanted to save all of that for the very end. But we finally got to have the match that was obviously coming about from last week, with DIY winning the triple threat to contend for the tag team titles, which obviously Awesome Truth hold. So we had a great match between Awesome Truth and DIY. I really enjoyed this. Obviously both teams work tremendously well together. Johnny and Truth were working on the floor together, and then Truth hits a really nice arm drag. Then we get to see Awesome Truth double teaming Johnny Gargano, and Tommaso comes in and he just starts fully chopping away at The Miz. Then we end up seeing Tommaso hitting a really nice backslide. Johnny hits a really nice slingshot spear on The Miz through the ring ropes. Johnny Gargano hits a really nice springboard crossbody, and then we hit the commercial break. But when we come back, The Miz is on fire. He's in control, and we end up seeing Tommaso Ciampa booting The Miz off the top ropes. So The Miz goes for this remove off the top ropes. I think he tries to hit like a crossbody, but Tommaso ends up countering it, which is quite cool. Then we end up seeing DIY both double teaming, and they get a couple of near falls within this match. Then we get to see Tommaso Ciampa be thrown out of the ring so that Awesome Truth can double team Johnny and get the win. They hit the Truth Crushing finale, which is the Skull Crushing finale plus the addition of Truth helping out, so that was quite cool. And they won. They obviously retained the tag team team titles. It would be a shame if they lost them on their first defense. Then there's a moment where all four of them are in the ring. Johnny is like shaking the hands of truth and hugging Miz, and Tommaso just gets up and walks away. So maybe this is like somewhat leading into what's been happening with Candice. I'm not too sure. Or maybe Tommaso is just getting really sick of Johnny, or I don't really know. Like maybe he's just upset with constantly losing. I'd really love to see Tommaso Ciampa as a champion of some kind, whether it's tag team or whether it's a singles run. I'd really love to see it. Following the tag match, we head backstage and we see Damian Priest and JD are arguing about what happened in the ring, the kerfuffle between them and Jey Uso. Damian is visibly frustrated by JD and his lack of awareness and lack of ability to be able to help. Dom Mysterio comes in, he's in a sling, he's now banged up, and he obviously cannot wrestle anymore at the moment. Then he brings in Santos and he's like, look, I know that I've got this tag match tonight that I'm meant to do against Ricochet and Andrade. Obviously, I can't help JD, so let me bring in Santos. He's obviously just wanting to help out. You know, it's a favor for the group. Damian's like, you've literally got to handle your business. Stay out of my business and handle your own business. Following this, we see that Imperium is backstage and we actually get the news that NXT Battleground will be taking place at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, which is super cool. I think this is really like the first UFC and WWE crossover that we have had. Obviously, they are both under the same umbrella of TKO. I think this is super exciting. I think this is actually really great for the business, and it's going to be so cool to see a WWE event taking place in a UFC arena. Like, this is actually incredible. But what's even more incredible is the return of Gunther and Imperium following his loss at WrestleMania. We haven't seen Gunther since WrestleMania, so it was really nice to see him come back. He says he doesn't want to talk about what happened at WrestleMania and focus on the past, but he wants to focus on what he did for the Intercontinental Championship. He said he was champion for 666 days and he elevated that title beyond measure, and he said that he'll be embedded in history forever because 2 years is a very long time. And for 2 years, he's had a big target on his back. He's had to live up to expectations, and he thanks Sammy. He said, you know, thank you for taking this target off me. Thank you for allowing me to do what I'm doing now, which is no longer being a target, but I am now being the hunter for the new championships. Obviously, when you are a champion, you are technically considered the hunted, but when you aren't, you are a hunter. So he says that he's obviously going to make the most out of this, and we're approaching a new era, and he actually declares himself a participant in the King of the Ring tournament, and he gives everybody a warning by saying that you will be hunted and targeted. And I'm so happy that Gunther's the first person to declare himself for the King of the Ring. He says he's going to add some prestige to it and make it something to care about, and I truly believe he will do that. New Day comes out. Kofi's like, look, yes, we are in a new era, and then Xavier's like, I'm actually the current King of the Ring, and I'm going to cement my legacy by becoming the second, like, two-time King of the Ring winner. Gunther's like, I want to reestablish the image of the King of the Ring. You won it by accident and you're claiming that you're still the champion, blah, blah, blah. Xavier's like, well, you used to be Intercontinental Champion, and Gunther's like, look, this whole entire thing is beyond me, and looks to Imperium, so looks to Giovanni and Ludwig, and is like, can you literally take care of this? Like, I'm so sick of it. We then see that Chelsea, Piper, and Nia have both arrived to the ring. Now, this is obviously in preparation for the Women's Battle Royal, which will be taking place in the main event. We head back to the ring where we have the tag match between New Day and Imperium. We have seen this a number of times, but these two teams for me have really good in-ring chemistry to the point where I don't mind how many times I see them wrestle. It just excites me that we're getting an awesome tag match. So Kofi hits a really nice dropkick on Ludwig, and then Giovanni comes in and starts neutralizing the situation. We see a really nice crossbody lateral press coming in from Kofi, and Imperium are double teaming the New Day. Then Ludwig hits a really nice clothesline and we hit the commercial break, but when we come back, Kofi's in charge and he swipes Ludwig. Then we see Xavier come in and he just hits that second gear, hits a really nice suplex followed by a tornado DDT. We see an awesome clothesline coming in from Giovanni. Then the New Day are double teaming Imperium, and Gunther is obviously watching ringside, and the New Day, they hit so many different moves in a sequence, I literally had no time to write it. But they win this match, and then Gunther is visibly disappointed. He kind of looks at them, he like talks to Ludwig and then walks away. And I was thinking to myself when I was watching this, I'm like, the camera's hanging around for too long, like there has to be something happening here. So I was watching, and I got really upset because Ludwig has now turned on Giovanni. And I was like, no, like, I knew this was going to happen, but like after all this time. And so Ludwig just absolutely just goes insane. He just starts going absolutely mental on Giovanni, and he ends up throwing him into the table, and then he puts him into the ring steps. And then before he does that move where he slams him in, security comes out and they start taking him away. And then Ludwig's like, nah. And there's like that I can't exactly remember what it's called, but it's like one of those TikTok sounds that people use when people are running really fast. I just pictured that when that happened. So he like goes around the other side of the ring and he just like absolutely boots the crap out of Giovanni. And I swear Giovanni must have been out cold at this point. Then the camera follows Ludwig out of the arena, obviously out of the ring, going into Gorilla, where Gunther is standing there, watching the entire thing, watching Ludwig, and he looks really proud of what he's done, and he looks really proud of what he's seen. So I'm like, is Ludwig and Gunther still on the same page? What's going to happen with Giovanni? I'm so sad because I love Imperium, and I like didn't really want to see them break apart. It's very disappointing, but I feel like we're in for some really good stuff. Ludwig is definitely like a really great main event, mid-card talent at the moment, which I could see him go into the main event. I just feel like him being a part of Imperium has like really stunted his growth on the main roster. I really want to see him do some awesome singles work and even potentially win Money in the Bank this year. I don't know, but I'd love to see him get an awesome showing at Berlin as well too. The possibilities with Ludwig Kaiser are endless, and he's just phenomenal. Like, he just, I've got so many good things to say about him. I'm so excited for this, but I'm also really upset that Imperium is no more. Following this, we got to see Drew McIntyre has arrived, and we had a Andrade video package where he talks about how he didn't join the Judgment Day because he doesn't like to consider himself a fool. This very much tees into that match that he has later on in the evening. So Drew McIntyre makes his way out to the ring, and he obviously is now being, he's not the only person in the pro wrestling scene that is being absolutely swamped by CM Punk chants. People are chanting for him. He sits down in the middle of the ring. He goes ahead and he says, like, can you also not shoot up my skirt, you perv? Again, why do you want CM Punk so badly? He hates all of you, but if anything, he hates himself the most. And he said this thing to kind of take the crowd by surprise. He went ahead and he said, say what if you French kiss your cousin? And everyone was like, what? And he's like, you sickos. And he talks about how he has a complex relationship with professional wrestling, and he said the only complex relationship that you guys from Ohio have is with your right hand. Oh, it was just absolutely classic. I love this Drew McIntyre. He's so funny, like literally saying everything that I'm thinking, but he actually has the platform to say it and won't get in trouble, whereas I will. I said at WrestleMania, I was attacked from behind and cashed in on. You guys are all cowards and you're coming out swinging for me. And he starts talking about King of the Ring. And then Sheamus comes out. And this is quite cool to see because we haven't seen Sheamus and Drew interact in a very long time. Sheamus is like, what's going on? Like, while I've been out, all I've been seeing is you complaining and sulking. And if anything, you need to be taking responsibility for your mistakes. I've known you for 20 years, and for the last 4 years, you've been complaining about how you've been robbed. But you blew it at WrestleMania 40. You decided to go ahead and make this absolute scene out of yourself, and you completely lost it over a meme and a black t-shirt. He said, look, I'm your friend, and we've had banger after banger after banger after banger matches, but the truth is a one-arm CM Punk kicked your ass. And I was like, it's like, you tell him, Sheamus, you tell him, Sheamus. And Drew's like, you know how CM Punk has affected me and affected my career. And Sheamus is like, it's literally obsession. You're obsessed with this guy at this point. And there's a moment that I didn't really like, but Drew somewhat starts to body shame Sheamus. Now, this is obviously in regard to all of the stuff that's been said online about Sheamus since his return. He is a bit bigger than what he was when he left. I just want to say I don't really like the body shaming side of things. Who really cares if somebody has gained a little bit of weight? Who cares if someone's lost a little bit of weight? At the end of the day, it's Sheamus's body. He's allowed to do what he wants, but also Sheamus was in a position 2 months ago where he was not even 100% sure if he was able to wrestle ever again. He knows that he can get himself into fighting shape. He's even said that himself. Like, it's just so stupid. And there's a moment where Sheamus actually kicks up during this promo and he starts laughing because he thought it was so incredibly funny. And he goes, at the end of the day, like, I can lose weight, but you can't lose stupid. And I was like, you tell him, sir. Drew's like, look, I am your only friend and I am going to tell you the truth, and this isn't worthwhile, but during this match that you have, I'm going to be watching your back. We cut backstage where we get to see Shayna Baszler and Ivy Nile are both stretching and preparing for the Battle Royale, which takes place in the main event. Now, we get a little bit of this throughout the evening, so it's interesting to see all of the contenders. You get to see everybody who's in the match getting themselves ready for it. We head back to the ring where Drew McIntyre is sitting ringside with Pat and Michael, and he is watching the match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Sheamus. I really enjoyed this. This started off with both hard blows coming from each of them as well too. Shinsuke ends up blowing Sheamus with his knee, and we end up seeing Sheamus fighting back. Sheamus hits the 10 beats and ends up exposing his kneecap and hits a running knee on Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke ends up kicking Sheamus's head, and then he does this spot where he puts him on the commentary table and he ends up jumping on his neck. We see the Irish Curse backbreaker coming in by Sheamus, and he hits White Noise, follows this up with a really nice power slam, and then Drew ends up slowing Shinsuke Nakamura down to kind of assist Sheamus during this match. Then Shinsuke ends up hitting a few kicks on Sheamus, and then Sheamus hits a brogue kick to come away with the win. So I'm interested to see where the friendship between Drew and Sheamus is. I feel like Sheamus is just going to go on his merry way, hoping to win that IC title, and Drew's just going to keep doing what Drew's doing. We get a video recap reminder of what happened in the match between Chad Gable and Sami Zayn last week for the Intercontinental Championship. We got to see little snippets of the match as well as the heel turn that took place. Kathy Kelly's backstage and she's asking Sami Zayn questions about what happened last week and how he feels. He says, if anything, I'm just really hurt by what happened and I can't defend Chad's actions, and if anything, I just need to bite my tongue in this situation. And the camera kind of pans over and we see Bronson Reed come in, and he said, you've got bigger problems than what's going on with Chad Gable right now. And Sammy's like, if you want this, and holds up the IC title, he's like, you can literally have it anytime, anywhere. And so Bronson's like, okay, and he walks away, and then he comes just running through and absolutely just attacks the crap out of Sami Zayn, just like pushing him up against one of the dressing carts that they've got and just absolutely mauls him to pieces. And then security comes in, and it's just like, it's really cool. I'm really excited to see Bronson's getting that push he finally deserves. We cross back to the ring where the Alpha Academy is making their way out, and Chad Gable is going to be defending his actions of what happened last week on Monday Night Raw. He said, Sami Zayn's been going through a rough couple of weeks, but what I did to him was completely justified. If anything, he worked me in the ring really well, and then when I was upset and crying in the corner of the ring, obviously from losing, he rubbed his win in my face by going ahead and putting the title on the ground right next to me, rubbing it in my face by going and hugging his wife afterwards. That should have been me. That should have been my moment. I've been wasting my time training him, and I've been wasting my time training losers, obviously referring to Otis, Maxine, and Akira, who were all in the ring with him. He insults Maxine, Akira, and Otis and says he needs to focus on himself as well as everybody else focusing on him getting that IC title. He said, we're going to win the Intercontinental Championship together, and he goes up to Otis and he's basically like, are you in this with me? And basically forces Otis to conform to what Chad wants. Chad ends up leaving, and the rest of the Alpha Academy is standing in the ring, and they just look really deflated. Ricochet runs into Dom Mysterio backstage, and he says that he's looking forward to beating JD and Santos in this tag match, and obviously reminds Dominic Mysterio about the fact that he's going to be wrestling JD when it comes to WWE Speed in the semi-finals. Ricochet ends up leaving the frame. Dom turns around and he ends up running into Liv Morgan. Then we see Nia Jax, and she quickly cuts a backstage promo talking about how obviously it's a 12 or 13 women's battle royale. She's going to be the monster throughout the entire match, and she's going to terrorize everybody and eliminate them all one by one to secure the win to become the new champion. We then go to the tag match, which is JD McDonough and Santos Escobar teaming up to go up against Ricochet and Andrade. Now this is your typical Ricochet, Andrade, JD and Santos match. They all bring their strengths into this match, and it is clearly on display. So JD and Andrade starting the match, and then we end up seeing Ricochet and Andrade double teaming Santos. Ricochet does what he does best, and JD's attacking Ricochet. There's a moment in this match where Dominic ends up distracting Ricochet, and then we see JD taking advantage of this, and we see Santos Escobar hitting a really nice Hurricane Rana. We see JD taking Andrade out in the corner of the ring, but Ricochet ends up fighting back. Andrade eventually gets into the match and he hits a second gear. Ricochet and Andrade both go after JD and Santos, and then the ending sequence is just too crazy for me to even just write anything down. I really recommend you watch it. It was a great match. Andrade and Ricochet secured the win, and then we end up seeing Damien come in and he ends up hitting Ricochet from behind and beating down on Andrade. And he looks at JD and Dom and he's like, I literally do not need you, like you guys need me. So I feel like Damien is in a different element. He's in a different like era within himself. He's obviously realizing his worth as world heavyweight champion and realizing that everyone in the Judgment Day is letting him down, and he can only trust himself and believe in himself at the end of the day. I just really don't like seeing all my favorite factions falling apart. Mommy, if you're watching this, please come home. We miss you. So we're about to get into the women's battle royale, and there is a lot that happens, so I'm going to slow it down. I'm going to read this very slowly because there is a lot that happens within the last probably 25 minutes of Monday Night Raw. So we see Kaden and Katana are warming up backstage before the battle royale. We see Natalya is doing the same thing as well, and we get a Zoe Stark video package where she's talking about how her first year on the main roster has been nothing but amazing for her. Obviously when she started, she was told to stand aside when Trish Stratus was in there, but she beat down on Trish, she beat down on Becky, and she's obviously solidified herself as a really great talent within the women's division. Then Jackie Redmond is talking with Indy and Candice, and she starts talking about obviously what's happened with their victories, but before they have a chance to really say anything, they're interrupted by Liv Morgan and Nia Jax getting into a scrap backstage, and security's trying to pull them all apart and everything, and then Becky Lynch kind of walks around the side. She grabs the microphone from Jackie Redmond and she's like, do you mind if I kind of take this over? Then we get that same following shot of Becky Lynch from backstage all the way through the arena. And during this moment, she walks by and she's talking about how great this match is going to be, and she runs into Maxine Dupree, and this was actually such a really cool moment for me to see. She runs into her and she said, this is your first time ever going for a women's championship, isn't it? And Maxine shook her head. She's like, go ahead and prove to them why it won't be your last. And I'm like, love it so much. And then the cameraman ends up following Becky Lynch all the way through backstage, all the way through to the arena, where she walks out and makes her presence known. She goes into the arena and gets ready for the Battle Royale. We have a few more entrances, but most of the contenders are already standing in the ring waiting for it. So it's absolute carnage at the beginning. Nia and Piper end up going for each other, and then Chelsea and Piper are both teaming up. Maxine gets a really great showing. She gets a lot of awesome offense in, especially with Nia Jax, and she ends up eliminating both Candice and Indy. Obviously, this is payback for what's been going on within the last couple of weeks. If I'm looking down here, it's literally because my notes are here, so I'm going to try and hold them up so I don't have to look down. So both Kaden and Katana are using their tag strengths within this match and double teaming them. Obviously, Shayna and Zoe are doing the exact same thing. They end up eliminating Kaden and Katana. Nia eliminates Ivy. Maxine ends up getting eliminated by Nia, and Becky ends up sending Piper packing. And so she gets eliminated, but then Piper ends up pulling Becky Lynch underneath the ring ropes, actually not eliminating her, and she cannonballs her, and she ends up setting her up on a table. Then Piper and Nia end up brawling outside, and we end up seeing Becky Lynch get hit in a choke slam, and Nia ends up putting her through a table, so Becky's mostly out of commission during this match anyway. Zoe ends up eliminating both Chelsea and Natalya. Zoe and Shayna end up taking on Liv, and then Nia ends up eliminating both of them as well too. We're left to 3 women in the ring for the Battle Royale. We're left with Nia Jax, Becky Lynch, and Liv Morgan. Now both Liv and Becky need to work together within this match to eliminate Nia Jax, which they do, and then they both end up working on the ring apron trying to eliminate each other, and Liv's doing alright, but Becky ends up getting the upper hand, and Becky perseveres throughout this whole thing, and she wins the Battle Royale. She eliminates Liv Morgan, and she comes away with the win. She is now the new Women's World Champion, and I'm very happy about this. I feel like this is probably the perfect decision if you want to have the title on someone who will consistently do a great job. That is not to say that nobody else will, but Becky Lynch has a proven track record when it comes to being a champion, and a lot of people have actually learnt about Becky Lynch that she actually does like to put people over, and she does care about the women's division, which I've known for a long time because I've been a massive fan of her for a long time. But people who've only really just started reading her book and actually listening to what she says rather than being a fan of her have only just started to click that that's what she does. I actually wouldn't have minded if the following superstars had have won. I wouldn't have minded if Piper had won, Nia, Shayna, Zoe, who else was in this match? Ivy. I'm happy that Becky Lynch has won, do not get me wrong. I'm super excited, but I really wouldn't have minded if anybody else had have won it. And sadly, that brings us to the end of the Monday Night Raw review for this week. If you guys liked the video, go ahead and show some love and support on the channel by liking the video. Go ahead and comment something that you enjoyed about Monday Night Raw. If you had a different person in mind to win the championship, I'd love to know what you guys think. While you're there, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell icon so it's your notifications. You will not miss any of our videos if you hit that icon, because we would hate for you to miss any of our podcasts and our reviews. While you're there, go ahead and check out the description. You'll find all of our personal social medias so you can keep up to date with what we're doing when we're not posting on here, as well as where you can find Outcasted on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. As always, you've got your regularly scheduled NXT review coming in from Reese this week, as well as the weekly podcast on Thursday, followed by the SmackDown review coming later this week, which I'm actually so jealous of because I'm pretty sure it's the first day of the draft this week, and then the following day of the draft is next Monday. So I'll get to talk about it next week, but I'm super excited for the draft. I think it's going to be really great. So yeah, if you guys want to stick around for some more content, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. I highly implore you to do so. The podcast this week we're going to be doing is Things That Grinds My Gears. So I finally get a chance to rant about stuff, and I am very excited for it. I feel like we need a good debrief. We need a good ranting session. So I hope to see you guys there. I hope you have a really great rest of your day, evening, or whatever time it is, and I'll see you in the podcast this week. Bye, guys.